Hello, welcome to Microsoft Excel Level 2 Video 1. In this series of videos, we're going to be looking at the if statements. So when you're past what we've covered in Level 1 with the fundamentals of how to design a spreadsheet, as well as using some of the basic math and design features in that area, such as min, max, and average, the next logical step to head off to are if statements. Now, they're quite a bit of a jump in terms of structure and complexity than the fundamental videos. But they are right critical because as we move into working on design spreadsheets, ones that somebody's already made for you, you'll find that if statements are used all the time. So we're going to have a series of videos here that we're going to focus on these different forms of if statements that you see on the screen right now in front of you. Now, this does look complex to begin with, but we'll be breaking it down, and each video will focus on a certain area. So first, as we begin here, if you haven't done so already, you should pause the video, and there is a PDF file called Notes on If Statements. And that gives you a bit of a breakdown of trying to understand what these are and how they actually work. So you can go print that out and have it alongside you. That would help you out quite a bit. Okay, so taking a look at that sheet, what I have on there for you on the top is just a bit of a breakdown as to what the if statement is about. And it contains three different parts. So on the screen right now in front of me is actually a multitude of different types of if statements. We're going to start on this first one up at the top, which is the simplest form of what an if statement is. So it contains three different parts. So the equal sign is always the same. There are actual function name, the if, that's same as what we talked about before. The parts I'm talking about, though, that are different are the ones that are in the brackets. And these three different pieces are separated by commas. And on the sheet, a separate sheet for you to print out, you can see that on there. So the first piece that we have is called our argument. And our argument is what you design and set up yourself. So in this case, it's A3 less than 50. So we design out this argument. A3 is referencing the cell that we would prefer to check. So whatever cell that you want to test or check, that is the one that you put in there. The argument then, of course, this greater than, less than, or equal to, that can be, again, as I just said, any of those three, but also combinations of those three. It could be greater than and equal to, less than and equal to, not greater than, which would have both of those signs, or even just equal to. So you can see where, again, this gets complex fairly quickly. So for our case, and the examples that we'll be doing right now, we're going to keep it quite simple. So in my example that I have on the screen in front of us, A3 greater than 50. Now this 50 is a number that you choose. Okay, that number is going to be significant for whatever purpose your spreadsheet is. 50 might reference stock quantity on a shelf. 50 might represent total sales per month. The number could be any number. It could be 50,000. It could be all kinds of things. So you choose. And as we get through some examples shortly, this will make a lot more sense. So there's our argument. Our argument then can either be true or false. So is A3 greater than 50? If A3 is greater than 50, that means that this argument is true. Therefore, Excel will display whatever is in this true section. If A3 is not greater than 50, Excel will display what is in the false section. The argument, the true, and the false, they're separated by these two commas. Don't forget to put the commas in. Also on the sheet for you to print out, it talks a little bit about some of the rules when it comes to using the if statements. So one thing, if you're using labels, so right now you can see it says labels over here. That means that in our argument right now, we have true and false. We're using words for it to reply back as it being a true statement or a false statement, a yes and no, up, down, whatever words that you want it to have in place of the true or false. If you wish to use labels, you must use quotation marks around each of those words, as you can see in the example here. Okay, those are our big rules. Common errors that occur. And there will be lots of errors that you're going to make along the way with if statements as you're getting used to them. People will accidentally put a space somewhere in here. Remember, we can't have spaces. Now, we do break some rules with that with if statements, but don't worry about that right now. No spaces. People oftentimes forget one of the two commas. That too will cause an error message. or if you accidentally forget to use quotation marks and spots. Now, in some of the newer version examples that I've seen out, people have actually not used quotation marks and it worked. I would highly caution you against that. All of the examples and all of the pieces that I've seen over the years, they always have had the quotation marks. If the newest version of Excel has now omitted that, that's great. However, people don't often have the brand new version. So if they're using an older version, they're going to get errors. So I would always still follow the proper protocols. In the end, we also have a pair of brackets. Our brackets, of course, are always there. So row 3 here, using labels as the true and the false. This is what we're going to be starting out with our if statements today. So in this video, we're going to do an example or two using those. Video 2, we're then going to move on to posting numbers as answers or responses for true and false. Video 3 will move into actually having mathematical equations for true or false. And in the last video in this series, video 4, I'm going to go over a little bit of this advanced stuff, these last 3 rows. This is really more advanced, and I'd highly encourage you just to stay on the first 3 if statements. The only reason that I'm going to include information on nested if statements, the if and the if or, is just in case you run into that. As a beginning user, and these videos are designed for beginning Excel users, nested if statements and these other couple at the bottom, that's past beginners by far. The problem is that you will run into them quite regularly if you're looking at other spreadsheets that you're editing or modifying or that someone has sent you. So these other ones in our last video will be there just more for understanding. Once you become a lot more comfortable with the top 3, for sure, you can jump in and try out the little bit of a project piece that I'm going to give you in the bottom one. Okay, so off we go. I'm going to switch over now to my first example for today, and this one is called labels. Each of these sheets I will be uploading as activities for you to do as well. You can see I've got blue boxes listed over here. This one is a 2-part assignment, and again, it has that complex nested if statement in the darker blue box. As you begin with your if statements and just starting out here, don't worry about that one yet. That one is kind of the project piece at the end here. This is the box that we're actually going to be doing together today. And when you download the file, if you wish to do some of these practice pieces on your own, then yes, you can do the one that's on the bottom. So what I have here is a pass-fail example. This is a gradebook. So if you were a teacher or you were doing some type of coursework, instruction, and you need to keep track of marks and things for students, the if statement is perfect. And usually you know that you need to create an if statement if you're looking for a one or another type of response. So if I look under my result column, which is column C, it's asking me for the result. Does this student pass or does the student fail? And if I look at the question down on the bottom, the answer of all that is in there, even if we take out this create an if statement part, right? Something that will display pass if the mark is 50 or more, and fail if under 50 with the result column. So the result column. So we're looking for a 2 type of answer, a pass or a fail. And as I've said several times already, these are the clues to let you know that this would be an if statement that we'd have to program for this. The project part here, the darker blue that I said just to ignore for now, this is another whole problem, right? We need a letter grade. So if you have a certain grade, then you're going to get an A or B or C or D or an F. That is a lot more complex, right? If statements, for the most part, fundamental if statements are only a 2 type of response, a yes or a no. All right, so I have one programmed in. I'm going to just show it to you quickly. Then I'm going to delete it, and then we're going to make this together. So I'm going to double click in here just to pop it open and just to show you how it works on this example. Just with all the other clutter from the other screen away, this might be easier. So you can go ahead and write this equation down if you want. We're going to build this one together shortly, as I said. So what am I doing? Equals if, easy enough. That's the same as the sum and the min and the max and the average that we've already done before. We always start with an open bracket. B3 is the cell that I want to check. So in this case, Arnell's grade of 90. So we want to check this one, B3. Is it greater than 50? Because remember, our question asks, if they get a mark of 50 or more, then they pass. If it's under 50, they fail. So equals if, open bracket, B3 greater than 50. So there's our argument, comma. If this is true, then they pass. So pass has to have quotation marks around it, comma. If the argument is not true. Then it goes to the second option, which is the false statement, and that says fail. Now I am missing one piece in the equation that's here, because if I read this carefully again, create an if statement that will display pass if the mark is 50 or more. So we've got two ways to combat that, because right now it's just saying if it's greater than 50. Therefore, if I get out of this for a second and we change our now to 50 on the dot, it says that they fail. So that is a problem. So we have to fix that little glitch. Now I didn't intentionally do it inaccurate. I just tried to simplify things a bit more. So if we have to say greater or 50 or greater, I could either change this number to 49, which means everything above 49 then would pass. Or we could say greater than or equal to 50 would equal a pass. If not, then a fail. So again, that's just tweaking with it. Let's keep it fairly simple, and we're just going to go 50, above 50 you pass, 50 below you fail. Okay, so how does this all work? Let me go ahead and delete this out of there. So I'm going to wipe that out, so we have no equations now. You can go ahead and pause the video now for a second, and go ahead and you can just add a few students. You don't have to do the entire chart if you don't want, but go ahead and make the grid. Again, I've got a merge on top, and I've got bold, and I've got a little bit of color background, all the things that we learned in our earlier videos. Not as critical right now, but do make sure if you're going to skip those parts, start at row 3. Okay, welcome back. Hopefully you've got enough in there that we can do a few examples with together. So we are now looking to make an if statement. We're looking for a pass, fail type of response. So here we go. I'm going to go equals if, shift and 9 to get the open bracket. Remember, this is exactly the same no matter what. If you have a different function name, it's always starts the same. Equal sign, the function name, and an open bracket to start. All right. Now the parts that make it an if statement. This cell that I want to check, I'm going to click on. So in this case, it's B3. And we're going to go shift to get the greater than. And our question says, is 50 or more? So I'm going to go 49, because as long as you're greater than 49, you must be 50 and above, right? So that would be a pass. So our argument is now complete. B3 greater than 49. No spaces, okay? Comma, and now I need a true statement. So if this statement is true, it's going to display something. So down below in my question again, it says it will display pass if the mark is 50 or more. So shift to get a quotation mark, the word pass, close quotation mark, and we also need a comma there to end or separate, sorry, our true statement from what will be our false. Back to our question on the bottom, if it does not equal 50 or more, they fail. So I need the word fail. So quotation mark, fail, close quotation mark. And finally a close bracket. Okay, so as you're writing that down, again, I'm going to do a review. Our argument, B3 greater than 49, comma. And then the word pass in quotation marks is our true statement. So if B3 is greater than 49, comma, if B3 is not greater than 49, then it will display fail. Remember, no spaces. You must use quotation marks with the labels, with words. Okay, looks good. Go ahead and press enter. 90% is a pass. Okay, so I'm going to show you a new tip and trick today. I'm going to click once on the word pass. And for you, I would recommend redoing this activity several times to practice. But if we were doing this right now and I need all of my answers finished, all I have to do is go in the bottom right-hand corner with the solid black cross, the fill down like we learned in previous videos. Instead of dragging though, I can just double left click, 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 and it will automatically flow all the way down. Okay, now I chose to do it on this one because I knew it was going to spill a little bit too far. So I'd mentioned this in the earlier videos when we were talking about autocomplete features, that you can drag and drop to fill things down, or you could also double click. And here's a great example where most people would double click rather than dragging and dropping. I usually don't double click. I always drag and drop. And as I said here, we've got a bit of a problem. because our students end with Martins at 55%. However, because I had a box over here with the question in it, it actually continued the autofill all the way down for 3 more rows, yet we don't even have data or students in those 3 rows. So the double click method is faster than dragging and dropping. However, there are times where it's going to be a bit of a problem for you. This isn't a bad thing. This is an easy type of thing to fix if it ever goes too far. It can also go too far like this, even if you dragged and dropped too fast and dragged a little bit extra rows. Easy problem to fix. It's still selected. Everything is still highlighted. So we're going to go to the bottom right corner to get the solid black cross again. Hold your left mouse button down and now just push up, up, up 3 times and let go. And it will now just display the pass or fail options for the student list that you have only. Okay, there's your first example of an if statement. What I would encourage you to do is pause the video, delete these guys back out. Try to recreate this one on your own. Okay, practice it a few times before we move on to labels number 2 example right away. These are really important for you to become comfortable with. Make sure that you've printed out that other PDF sheet, which is the notes on the if statement, so that you know what to do with those ones. Save these ones that we're doing now so that you can recreate and re-practice with them as you go along. Okay, so I'm going to move on to labels number 2. If you'd like to pause the video at this time, and as I said, practice this one a couple more times, that would be a good idea. Okay, labels 2. Labels 2, what I've tried to create for you here is a more realistic scenario. So we are now going to be the back office manager at the Selkirk Wood store. And your job is to make sure that we have enough wood and products in-house so that our customers can buy. Now, we've chosen a threshold number here. You can see it says order more. Our question, of course, is create an if statement that will tell you to order more product if the stock falls below 50. Otherwise, it should say plenty. All right, so 43 is below 50, so that's why it says order more. I'm going to delete this out, and we're going to create this over again. So once again, if you'd like to pause the video at this time and type out this for yourself, I can see we need to stretch this column a little here. There we go. You can go ahead and pause at this time and type out definitely our item number and quantity. Okay, welcome back. We're going to now create a spreadsheet for this wood store. Now, if this was Home Depot or Rona or some of those larger retailers, clearly having 50 of a stock in hand was not realistic at all. But maybe a small mom and pop shop somewhere out in the country, that would be fine. Okay, here we go. Under our status, we're going to create an if statement to tell us if we have enough or not enough product in stock. So as usual, equals, and then our argument, if, Shift and 9 to open the bracket. I'm going to choose my cell for my quantity, which in this case is C3. Just like our other spreadsheets that we've worked on in previous videos, it color coordinates, so always keep that in mind. Shift and our greater than symbol to get that symbol. And our threshold number here is 50, that was chosen for us. So our argument now is complete. Equals if, open bracket, C3 is greater than 50, comma. Remember, we separate our argument from our true and false with commas. Next, it wants us to say that if we have one, C3 is greater than 50, then we have plenty in stock. If not, we have to order more. So those are labels. So shift and a quotation mark, word plenty, shift and a close quotation. Once again, a comma to separate our true and our false statements, quotation mark, and here's where we get into the rule breaking. I've said this numerous times over our previous video series and even earlier in this video, no spaces, no spaces, no spaces. Well, here is the moment where you break the rules. If it is inside of the quotation marks, it's not considered part of the equation, it's considered a label. So what I have here, it said, if we're low, we need to order more. Well, that's 2 words. Because they're inside of the quotation marks, and because it's a label, it's not actually part of an equation, you can have a space there. So I don't know if that really counts as breaking the rules or not, but it's just an exception. So order more, close quotation mark, close bracket, and that is complete. So equals if, open bracket, C3 is greater than 50, comma, quotation mark plenty, quotation mark, comma, quotation mark, order more, close quotation mark, close bracket. This will give us a test to see if the quantity of, in this case, oak trim is 50 or more, and we're good. Less than 50, and we need to order more product. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and press enter, and it says order more. I'm going to click once on order more, and this time instead of double clicking, because I see down here we're going to have the same problem, I'll use the method that I normally use, small black cross, bottom right corner of the equation box, hold the left mouse button down, and just pull down, and then let go. Okay, here's the last piece that I'll talk a bit about before I send you off to practice with these two a few more times. Usually when I'm teaching in class, somebody will ask at this point in time, is there a way that I could have order more stand out rather than just being black? And, you know, with 10 examples or 8 examples here, you know, it's pretty easy to see which ones need to order more or which ones are plenty. If I have 150, which would be more realistic to a store or more even, it's kind of hard to see those order mores. Can I make it red? Could I make it bold? Could I do something to make it stand out a bit more? Sadly, with the if statement or with any equation in Excel, on its own like this, no, you can't. However, there are ways to get what you want, and that's actually adding something on top of these. And in our bonus videos, I will be covering what's called conditional formatting. And what that would allow me to do is to take these boxes that say order more and make them stand out. We're going to have red font on a bright orange background or something like that, and it will stand out a lot more than just simply order more. Thankfully, we didn't say good or enough or plenty or need more, like something that would be a little bit more stand out. We could, I guess, double click on this, and I could go back into my equation, and the best I can do would be to go all caps. And then now if I flow this back down, it would stand out like that. But yeah, we can't do anything else just yet. But be aware that there are ways that we could make them stand out a bit more that jump out at you, just so you know which ones are low. Okay, so this is where we're going to stop this video. My suggestion for you is to go back and practice the two that we did together in the video together. So if you've designed out or written out some of this one, as I said, I'm going to be putting these up as separate activities in the downloads as well. So you can download my copies. Now mine will definitely not have any data in them. They will all be empty, like the bottom parts in here. And that is for you to then go and redesign out the equations. If you get stuck, you can go back into the video like this in the earlier parts, watch the section where I've coded the if statement in, and allow that to help you practice. Okay, thanks for watching.